Welcome to Cheating Stories Star, and what he discovers goes far beyond. He stays silent, watches carefully, and waits.
My name is Elliot Vance, and the night I discovered my wife was cheating on me, I didn't scream, I laughed. Not because it was funny, because the message on my phone was so perfectly timed that it felt rehearsed. He knows about us. We need to leave tonight. It came from my wife's number. I was sitting across from her at our dining table. She was drinking coffee. She looked at me. Then on my phone. For half a second, her face changed. That was enough. I had spent 12 years learning every expression on that woman's face. That half second wasn't confusing. It was a calculation. I turned my phone face down. "Everything okay?" she asked. I smiled. Yeah, that was the first lie I told her. The second came 10 minutes later. I told her I trusted her. I didn't. I had already started remembering things. The late meetings, the new password, the sudden weekend errands, the way she stopped leaving her phone in the bedroom. But there was something worse. 3 weeks earlier, I had found a hotel receipt in the pocket of her coat. Room 813, 2 nights. I had said nothing. I had simply taken a photograph. Because I have always believed one thing. People lie differently when they think you don't know. So I waited and watched. I didn't confront her. I didn't follow her. I didn't call the number. I hired a private investigator. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I wanted certainty. 7 days later, the report arrived. Photographs. Hotel entrances. Restaurant meetings. Messages recovered from a secondary device. And then I saw his face. My wife's business partner, Daniel. The man who had been sitting in my living room for years, shaking my hand, calling me brother. But the report contained something I hadn't expected. Daniel wasn't the only man. There were 2, and both of them were connected to something much bigger. My wife had been secretly transferring money from our joint company into an account overseas. The affair wasn't the plan. It was part of the plan. She wasn't leaving me for another man. She was preparing to leave me with the debt. That was when everything became clear. The affection. The arguments. The sudden pressure to sell our house. Even the message I'd received that night. It wasn't a confession. It was bait. They wanted me to be emotional. They wanted me angry. They wanted me to confront them before the financial transfers were complete. I almost admired it. Almost. Then I checked the dates. Every transfer happened after a specific argument between my wife and me. Arguments she had deliberately created. She had been building a legal story. A husband is becoming unstable. A marriage collapsing. A wife trying to escape. I sat alone in my office that night and stared at the documents. My hands were completely still. Inside, something had gone cold. I realized they hadn't betrayed me because they thought I was weak. They betrayed me because they thought I was predictable. That was their mistake. The next morning, I moved every remaining company asset into legal protection. I froze the accounts. I contacted the attorney. I preserved every message. Then I waited. 3 days later, my wife walked into the kitchen smiling. "I think we should talk about selling the house." I looked at her. Absolutely. She smiled wider. She thought she had won. That afternoon, I placed a folder on the dining table. Her smile disappeared. Inside were bank statements, hotel photographs, message transcripts, and one final document, a signed affidavit from Daniel. He had already confessed. Not because I threatened him. Because I had offered him the one thing desperate people value more than loyalty, a way out. My wife picked up the first page. Her hands began shaking. "You knew?" I nodded. "For 19 days. She stared at me. "Why didn't you say anything?" I looked at the woman I had once loved. "Because I wanted to know how far you were willing to go." She started crying. I felt nothing. That frightened me more than anger ever could. I stood, took my keys, and walked toward the door. Behind me, she whispered my name. I stopped. Not because I wanted to turn around, because I wanted her to understand something. I looked back once. "You didn't betray the man you married." I paused. "You betrayed the man who knew exactly what you were capable of." Then I left. I didn't take revenge. I simply removed myself from the game they thought they controlled. The house was sold. The company survived. Daniel disappeared. My wife lost everything she had planned to steal. And me? I stopped wondering why she did it. Some questions don't deserve answers. They only deserve distance. That night, I deleted her number. Not because I hated her, because she had finally become someone I no longer needed to remember. They thought my silence meant I was broken. It was the moment I decided they were finished.